Fractions, decimals, and percents. We're going to be looking at numbers that are a little bit larger than the ones that you've been used to dealing with. We'll start off here with kind of a basic one. You've seen this one before. Let's say you've got 42%. I want to change that percent into a fraction. Somebody explain to me how I would do that. Trickle? Yeah, very good. So 42 over 100. Now, 42% means out of 100. Cent meaning like century is 100 years. 1 cent is 1/100th of a dollar. Cent is 100. So this is 44 per cent per 100. So it's 44 over 100. So we've got 42 over 100, and then we can simplify that fraction. If you do 42 over 100, we can simplify that to 21 over 50. 21 over 50. You close the door, please. All right, our next one, we have 150%. We do this the same way. Someone's going to have to explain this to Kennedy later. So you've got 150, writing that as a fraction. That is a percent, so we do 150 over 100. That, of course, is going to give you a mixed number. It'll be 100 goes into 150 one whole time with 50 remaining. And that obviously can be reduced again, 1 1/2. These you should be really comfortable with. These are not new for you. This might be. I have 8/10 of a percent. Write that as a fraction. Anybody think they got it? Jessica? So like 8 over 10? Now that's not, that would be 8/10 as a decimal, but this isn't a decimal, it's a percent. Amanda? So you did like 8/10 over 100 like that? You're on the right track. I don't know that you can have a decimal in your fraction. Ryan?
8 over 1,000.
8 over 1,000. Now, why would you have 8 over 1,000?
Well, I did a trick that this is on my math teacher taught me last year.
Mhm.
You multiply any percentage times 100.
Mm-hmm.
That you get your answer as a decimal.
Yeah.
I just prefer that.
So what you did was you moved your decimal over, and then turned that decimal into. Okay, so you found that this was the equivalent decimal is 8 thousandths, and you're good enough with decimals to turn that decimal into a fraction. So that's how you did it. Okay. Here's what I would do. This gives you 8/10 over 100. One way to solve this is to move the decimal over one place to the right and move your decimal here one place to the right. We're multiplying this by a factor of 10. Kind of like what Ryan was saying. That gives us 8 over 1,000. And then we could reduce that fraction. Another way to do this is to turn it into a division problem. 8/10 over 100 is the same as 8/10 divided by 100. All a fraction is a division problem. So if I do 8/10 divided by 100, that gives me 0.008, that 8 thousandths. Once you have the 8 thousandths, you can do the second fraction to decimal, and that gives you 1 over 125. which is the same as if I reduce that, it gives me 1 over 125. In this problem right here, we change our fraction into a division problem to simplify it for us. That will become extremely handy. Let's see if you can use that on our next one. 16 2/3%. Write that as a fraction. Anybody get it? Anybody want to be brave enough to share an answer? What'd you get, Ben?
16 over 2, or 16 and 2 over 3.
That's our percent. We wouldn't change that percent into a fraction.
Okay. What percent sign?
Well, you can't just dump the percent sign because a percentage and a fraction are two different things. You can have a fraction in the percent. Emma? You're on the right track. Anna? No. Robert?
10,666 over 10,000.
Nope. Alex? Oh, you guys are thinking about this way too hard. First thing I'm going to do, and Emma's right, you're going to write this as a fraction. Write this as 16 2/3 over 100 because it's a percentage. Once you do that, you can drop your percent sign. So we drop our percent sign out there. Now treat it as a division problem. Now we can do 16 2/3 divided by 100. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 16 2/3 divided by 100, and that gives me 1/6. So all we're doing is changing the fraction into division. So it's the numerator divided by denominator. That's it. Now that we've looked at percent to fraction, let's look at percent to decimal. We'll use the same numbers just to keep it easy. If I have 42%, how do I turn that into a decimal? Devin?
Get rid of the percent and make it into a decimal and move it over 2 places.
So our decimal is going to start at the end of the 2, and then we're going to move it 2 places to the left. So that gives us 0.42. That's 42 hundredths. It makes sense. As a fraction, it was 42 hundredths, so it would make sense as a decimal, it would be 42 hundredths. That makes sense. Yes, Amanda?
You could also take 42 divided by 100.
You could, exactly. For our next one, we had 150%. What would that be as a decimal? Mark? What did you say? Okay. So we have 1.5. Our decimal starts here and it moves 2 to the left, puts it right in between the 1 and the 5. So that is 1.5. Notice these do not have percent sign. The percent sign drops off once we convert it. Increase the difficulty a little bit, the 0.8%. So you have 0.8%. What would that be as a decimal? Same pattern. Andrew?
0.08.
So you would just move the decimal one time?
No.
Or would you move it 2 times? Yeah, you move it 2 times. So that means you're going to have to put in a 0 there as a placeholder. So then your answer there would be 0, 0, 8. Which changes it to 8 thousandths. Remember when we struggled with that up here a little bit, we said, where are we at? Right there. Right here, Ryan said, well, I just changed it to 8 thousandths. I wrote that as a fraction. Because he changed it to a decimal first and then changed it to a fraction. And then the last one for this section is 16 2/3%. Change that into a decimal. Did you get Alex?
167.
You rounded?
Yeah.
Yeah. What you're going to do here is change this fraction into a decimal. 2/3 is just 0.6 repeating. So once you have that percentage, then you move your decimal 1, 2 places to the left. So you'll get 0.16 repeating, which he rounded to 0.17. That's approximately the same. All right, so you've looked at changing percents to a fraction and percents to a decimal. The next thing we're going to look at is changing a decimal to percent. Changing a decimal to a percent could have something like 3 21/100. Write that as a percent. Seven. Yep, moves 2 places to the right. It's the opposite of what we did just above here. To go percent to decimal, we move to the left. To go from decimal to percent, we move to the right. That gives us 321%. Very good. What if I had 900? What would that be as a percent? Anna? Very good, 9%. Excellent. So we've looked at decimal to percent, and the last thing we're going to look at is a fraction, 2%. Yeah, we don't do fraction to decimal at this age. So if I give you 15 over 2,500. Convert that to a percent. Andrew, what'd you get?
1.6 repeating.
That's not what I got. Here's a hint. I see some people struggling a little bit. There are 2 main ways to do this. The first one is a proportion. So you take your ratio and you solve over 100 because you know that a percent is out of 100. So what you can do is you can solve that proportion and it'll give you that percent value. Another way to do it is to convert it to a decimal first. Then once you have that decimal, then you move the decimal 2 places to the right. Mark, what'd you get? What was it? That's not what I got. That
0.6%?
that is what I got.
That's what I got.
So it'll be 0.6 over 100, and that would be your percentage, which is 0.6%. So 0.6%. You could also do it this way. When you do it this way, if you did turn 15 over 2,500 to a decimal, you get that decimal right there. And then if you move it 2 places to the right, it'll put the decimal right behind the 6. So it would be 0.6, just like it is right here. Let's look at one more like that. So 9 over 40. Convert 9 over 40, 9/40ths, to a percent. Holly, what'd you get there?
She's got this.
Which did you set up a proportion or did you turn it into a decimal?
I tried to do decimal.
Okay.
I got one. I took calculator and started putting stuff in.
Hold on. She said she took her calculator and started typing stuff in. What stuff were you typing in?
I put it. Wait. I got the piece of paper.
I know you do.
I thought that if I could put 2,500 divided by 15, I would get the answer, but no.
Oh, that was that problem up here. We're trying to turn this right here into a fraction. So to turn that into a fraction, you could do 9 divided by 40. That'll turn it into a decimal. Or you could do 9 ABC 40, second fraction to decimal. That would also turn it into a decimal. So if you have that decimal right there, how would you then turn that decimal into a percentage, Holly?
You would have to
Move it to the left or to the right?
left.
Yeah, to the right. So it'll be 22.5%. Anybody solve it using a proportion? Sam, you did that? Did you get the same answer?
Yeah.
So we did 9 over 40 and then x over 100. Multiply diagonally, divide by your leftover number, and that should give you 22.5. That same answer. You should be comfortable moving in between all three of these. So if I give you a percent, you need to be able to convert that to a fraction and a decimal. If I give you a fraction, you need to be able to convert that to a decimal and to a percent. You need to be able to move in between all three of these very smoothly. It helps out a lot to be able to do that.